because being in public service, especially now, is so hard and so difficult. The challenges we face and the decisions that we have to make are, there are never really any good choices. There are the best of the worst choices. And we make them systematically because of how our constituents react to them and how it affects their lives. A few years ago, I went to the Harvard Kennedy School for a summer to learn about leadership. And I encouraged James to do the same. And he was fortunate enough to take a similar class to and have the same guidance and leadership through a gentleman named Marty Linsky, who used to be involved in politics and was in the legislature of Massachusetts. And one of the things that he taught us about leadership,
we just talked about it too.
Yes, which is one of my favorite quotes, is that leadership is about distributing disappointment at the rate that people can absorb it. Think about that. Think about that. So that is like something that all three of us as public policy makers who go to Springfield, Washington, and to City Council are faced with in these very complicated, difficult times. And doing things in your community aren't always going to be the most popular things. Dealing with crime, dealing with development, trying to bring resources home, whether it's more police presence, whether it's more parks, whether it's more dollars for the schools and education. It's a constant battle every single day. And I think that we should acknowledge that and what is going on outside in these races, in these aldermanic races, in this mayoral race, is really a response to that. On April 7th, everybody in this board should know that James Cappleman has made tough choices, okay? And I just want to, ahead of time, before I introduce Jan Schakowsky, thank you for getting on the phones, for sealing envelopes, for knocking on doors, and for telling people, yes, see what happened February 24th? It does matter, but your vote does matter. And we really need to get out there to deliver James back to City Council because he has the leadership skills it takes to make tough decisions, the ones that are behind us that he's made and the ones that are ahead of us. So without any further ado, thank you all very much for inviting me here, and my buddy Jan Schakowsky.
I just want to say, Sara, that I have just watched you do so many positive things in the state legislature. Maybe a difficult environment, but Sara has figured out how to make things happen. So I really appreciate all the great work. And I actually think that a lot of the things that aren't happening in Washington are now happening much more at the local level. State level, we'll see with this new governor. We have some challenges here. But okay, I'll accept that definition of leadership. But I think another definition of leadership is making sure that you spread optimism, that things are going to, with our help, get better, that the arc of history does bend toward justice. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, we just have to be the ones that are pulling and pushing it and bending it toward justice. And I want to give you one data point that I live with. This country has never been richer than it is today. We are the richest country in the world, and if wealth were evenly distributed, we'd all be living pretty well. And yet in government, we are forced to live in a framework of scarcity, which is not true. In other words, if we would ask those people who are really living high on the hog, higher than they ever have, we're talking about average CEO salaries of $20 million a year, we would, in our neighborhoods, in our lives, in our families, be doing a whole lot better. So it's about creating power at the grassroots level, so we can push toward making life fair, not a struggle all the time. So many families come home every night to a big plate of worry. I have new data that we just got about retirement insecurity. Everybody worrying, am I going to be able to retire ever? Am I going to have to work the rest of my life? It didn't always it wasn't always that way. It doesn't always have to be this way. But it's really up to us to make it happen, to elect the leaders who share our values, who believe that the middle class and all those who aspire to it, meaning a lot of poor people who are struggling and even middle class people who are struggling, that we can win and we can do better. Elections really matter. You know, some people say, oh, fed up, everybody's just the same, and what's the difference, and all politicians are corrupt. So here in the 46th Ward, we have a choice. And all of you have made that choice and made that commitment. But that doesn't always turn out to be victory. It means you have to get out to vote. It means you have to keep folding those mailers. You need to be putting them in envelopes. You need to be calling your friends. You need to be getting on the phone. You need to struggle through colder than usual weather at this time of year. We didn't expect it this weekend. And so, thank you. I really want to thank you for what you're doing. It makes such a big difference. This is it. This is what victory looks like. This is what victory looks like. When people come together and make it happen. That's what makes me optimistic about the future. That you know, people are still want to be engaged. We have to get more and more people engaged. We have to manifest the environment. Say it again.
You have to manifest the environment within yourself.
You have to manifest the environment that you want to live in, that's inside yourself. In other words, you don't have to just accept the environment that's created out there. That's a Buddhist thing that she just taught me. But you make your own environment, and this is it. So today, you're going to go vote. I also hope that you'll come back and knock on a few doors, make some phone calls. We have 2 weeks until, is that right?
10 days, yeah.
10 days. 10 days until the election. But this is the time when people are really focusing in on the election, and they want to hear from you. They want to hear from neighbors about what's really important. And so, you know, I think we're on the right trajectory, but we take nothing for granted. Nothing for granted. We've seen people surprised by elections all the time. No surprises here. We want to win this, and we want to do it in 10 days, and it's all up to you. It's all up to us. Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to thank both Jane and Sara. Actually, both of them came to my wedding. I was just very, very honored to have them both.
It was awesome.
It was a fun time. It was an incredible time. But I also admire the two of these leaders because they are fighters, and they have a long, long history of being active in the community long before they even thought about running for public office. And that's the heart of a true leader, someone who wants to run for public office to represent all of you, is you have to have a long-standing history of being involved in the community, talking with residents, to hearing what their concerns are. And that's something that I really have done for the past 15 years that I lived in this community. I've interacted with residents. I've interacted with the police. I've interacted with many of you on all different kinds of problems that we had together. And what I found was, and Sara and Jen have found the same thing, is that when we gather all together, all these different groups, and by the way, the 46th Ward is the most diverse ward in the city, both ethnically and economically. When we gather all these people together and get ideas from you about what we can do to create more economic development, what we can do to encourage more affordable housing, what we can do to get more jobs in this community, or what we can do to make this a safer place for you, when we gather together, those ideas get better than ever. And so part of what a leader has to do is we have to hear from you. We have to not only hear from you, we have to involve you to make this ward and this state and this country better. What I am most proud of is that all of you here get it. You understand that if we're going to go forward, we have to work together. And you're doing it. I am honored with your support. And this is not just today that we need to be doing this. We need to be doing this continually. Because as Sara said, we are going through a crisis in this country and this state and this city. And there are some really tough decisions. But it has to be balanced with optimism. We have to be working together because those solutions don't come just from us. They come from you. And so Jan and Sara and I have a long-standing history of hearing from you. We want to keep hearing from you. We need your support, and we're going to make this ward move forward. Thank you so much.
All right.